on misses and long rebounds. So nice recognition when you get one out before the defense gets set.
He did shoot well from three-point range. Again, 5 of 8. Pretty impressive.
Biggest news of the day, guys. James Harden is traded to the Brooklyn Nets. The Rockets get Oladipo, Exum. They get 4 first-round picks. They get 4 Brooklyn pick swaps. Look at all those years involved. Pacers get Karis LeVert. Jared Allen going to the Cavs. Magic's tweeting. James Harden getting traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Join KD and Kyrie will be special to watch, but I'm still picking the Lakers to win the chip.
The biggest winner in that trade, Stephen Silas, the head coach of the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
Less headaches.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That was an impossible situation
Impossible.
for a first-time head coach. Yes.
All right. KCP scored 10 points in the win. He's speaking with Mike.
Oh, I've been waiting to talk to this next guest right here. Our NBA analyst, champion with the Boston Celtics, the one and only Kendrick Perkins. Your reaction to this deal, do you feel it's a good thing for the Brooklyn Nets?
Stephen A., surprisingly, I don't. And here's why. Yes, you have all the offensive power in the world, but guess what? Defense wins championships. And you can't tell me a last NBA championship team in the last 5 years that wasn't top 5 defensively. And I'm looking at this roster and I'm saying, who in the hell is going to guard? Who's going to guard Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? Who's going to guard Joel Embiid? You need people out there that's going to defend at a high level. And when I'm looking at this Brooklyn Nets team and what they did, I strongly believe that they dropped the ball by getting rid of Jared Allen. He was their rim protector. He was their lob threat. He anchored the defense. So right now, one word comes to mind, Stephen A., on the offensive end: sacrifice. Who is going to sacrifice? Everyone can't have the basketball. There's only one of them.
Let's transition back to the one and only Kendrick Perkins. Now, Kendrick Perkins, you spoke about the Brooklyn Nets. You asked about where's the defense. That doesn't appear to be a concern you have when it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers, who, if I remember correctly, you're predicting is coming out of the East. What about the fact that they didn't end up getting Harden when clearly they at least made an attempt to do so?
Well, because right now, when you look at this Philadelphia 76er team, they're playing agenda-free basketball, and they look like a family on the defensive end and the offensive end. You have guys being stars in their role. By the way, Joel Embiid is looking like the MVP, like he's on the verge of winning it. Ben Simmons is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. You have Danny Green, who's knocking down three-point shots. And then again, Seth Curry. Everybody want to talk about how he can shoot the lights out, but it's more to his game than just that. And when you look at the Philadelphia 76ers bench, they have more depth than the Brooklyn Nets. Okay. And I'm here to tell you, Stephen A., we cannot trust Kyrie Irving.
That's where I'm
We're
going.
only 11 games in. Okay, go ahead.
That's where I'm going with it. I was going to ask you about that. Talk to me about Kyrie Irving. Talk to me about Kyrie Irving being out for personal reasons. He's missed the last 5 games. How should we be feeling about Kyrie Irving right now? How should the Nets be feeling about Kyrie Irving right now, especially since they just acquired James Harden?
They should be very, very worried about Kyrie Irving. And I think this is part of the fact that the Nets actually went on ahead and pushed the trade because they do have concerns about Kyrie Irving. Because if you're 10 or 11 games into the season and Kyrie just decides to go MIA, who's the hell to tell you that he's not going to do that come first round of the playoffs? This guy is unpredictable. You never know what he's thinking. And Kyrie is a major concern, but I think they got James Harden part of the insurance.
But the big news is that they made a blockbuster deal to acquire one of the NBA's most prolific scorers, the Beard himself, James Harden. Here are the notable details in a 14 trade. Harden is heading to the Nets, while the Rockets get 4 first-round picks, 4 pick swaps from Brooklyn, and Victor Oladipo. They got Oladipo from the Pacers, while Karis LeVert is heading to Indiana. The Cavaliers acquired Jared Allen and Taurean Prince to complete the deal. Time to welcome in the man, the ultimate NBA insider who broke this story with our own Ramona Shelburne, the one and only Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, how did this trade happen so quickly? Break this down for us.
Stephen, over the last few days, these talks started to gain some momentum, and ultimately, Brooklyn and Philadelphia were the two teams who were willing to kind of go the distance in putting packages together to try to get a player of James Harden's caliber. Those talks went through last night into this morning, and then this afternoon, really once Houston found a fourth team in the deal, Indiana, to move Karis LeVert for Victor Oladipo, there was a trade in place, and this is what Brooklyn wanted to do all along, find a third star for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They did it. They did it at a steep price, but they've landed James Harden.
Woj, how long has this been percolating? We've been hearing about this for quite some time, that James Harden obviously wanted to end up in Brooklyn, but then we were here in Philadelphia, and then you take into consideration Kyrie Irving and what's been going on in Brooklyn. Is this something that's been percolating over the last several weeks, or is this something that really elevated to a level of urgency once Kyrie Irving had been gone from the Brooklyn Nets over the past few games?
Well, Stephen, really since James Harden and Kevin Durant were playing pickup in the offseason in L.A. and started to talk about this idea, and Harden told the Rockets that he wanted to be traded, that Brooklyn was his focus, and he added teams in there. He was open. He was more than open to going to the Sixers. But ultimately, and I think too here in the last week for the Nets, the urgency to get James Harden, I do think was heightened by what's gone on with Kyrie Irving, because Brooklyn's already got to be thinking about Kevin Durant's future. And even though there's still 2 years left on his deal, they got to make sure Kevin Durant wants to continue his career here. He's come back at an all-world level off that Achilles injury, and getting James Harden, hopefully the Nets think to play with Kyrie and KD, but it gives them another superstar co-star for Kevin Durant, regardless of what Kyrie's future is with the Nets.
Woj, thanks, but I got bad news for you. After all the work you put in, you can't go anywhere. I need you again. I'll be back to you shortly. Don't go anywhere. Lots of stuff to still get into. Listen, it was a mix of good and bad for James Harden in Houston. He won several awards, including the 2018 MVP and 3 consecutive scoring titles. First player to do that since Kevin Durant almost a decade ago. But the Rockets did not have much success in the playoffs despite making the postseason in every season. They only reached the conference finals twice, falling short of the finals both times. Possibly the highlight of Harden's time in Houston, though, came during the 2017-18 season when he recorded at least 30 points in 32 straight games. That is the second longest streak of all time behind the one and only Wilt Chamberlain. However, in his last 4 games, they were the lowest in his time in Houston. Harden failed to score more than 20 points in 4 consecutive games, his longest streak as a member of the Houston Rockets. We now welcome in the wonderful Doris Burke, who will call the Nets and Knicks game tonight on ESPN. Reaction to the trade, Doris, what are your thoughts?
I had 2 very quick thoughts in succession. The first one was a championship-level team with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant enhance their championship possibilities. You don't add one of the great scorers ever in the history of the league. You just went through all the accomplishments of James Harden and not raise your window as a championship organization. It's just too dangerous on the offensive end. My second one, Stephen, was this isn't without its challenges. Number one, on the defensive end, you've got some issues. You trade away your rim protector, a guy who did a tremendous job at the rim for you, and Jared Allen. But also, Kevin Durant has proven he can play alongside another MVP in Steph Curry, an elite two-way player in Klay Thompson, and still rise to the top of that group, 2-time Finals MVP. What we don't know, Kyrie Irving bristled alongside LeBron James when he played with him. James Harden's a guy who has had trouble getting along with Chris Paul, now Russell Westbrook. It didn't work. Those 2 guys need the ball, so how this all meshes in a compressed schedule with very little practice time remains to be seen. Is it doable? Yes, because all 3 are great players, but it's not without its challenges.
Doris, in Boston in 2008, you had Ray Allen as a third option. That was an adjustment, but he handled it. They won a title. Chris Bosh was a third option in Miami. They won 2 titles in 4 years. Of course, you had Klay Thompson in Golden State. They won 3 titles in 5 years. Who's going to be the third option in this trifecta? And more importantly, who'll be receptive to it, if anybody at all?
That's a great question. And obviously, you know, Kevin Durant, think about what he does the other night. You're down 18. There's turmoil surrounding your entire roster. You needed a win desperately. I mean, Steve Nash said it was good for our soul. That's how the feeling was around this group with all the Kyrie uncertainty. So, you know, You want him to shine. And again, I go back to the point, Kyrie Irving and James Harden have proven at their best they need the basketball in their hands. And even watching the brief repetitions with Kyrie and Kevin Durant, it's like one has the ball for a stretch of time and then the other has the ball for the stretch of time. The honest answer to that question is, I don't know. And it's why a collection of talent doesn't always translate to championships. How this meshes, what Steve Nash has in front of him is a unique and interesting challenge.
Always love talking to you, Doris. Thank you so much, and have a good time calling that game.